woman who changed. When I was a child, I lived with my parents in the deep woods in a valley in the mountains. We lived in a small house with a big picture window in the front that looked out over the rest of the tiny neighborhood, and a big picture window in the back that looked out into the shady woods. The trees, tall, dark pines and lop-topped hemlocks, came right down to the back of the house and marched around the side almost into the neighborhood. They leaned over the rooftop, their roots drinking from a little brook that ran along near the side of the house. Right where the pines ended and the lawn began was one small, bright maple tree. I had no brothers or sisters. I really wanted a pet, perhaps a cat or a dog or a pony. But my parents told me pets were too much trouble. Still, I thought it wise to ask for one every birthday and every winter holiday time. One day in the early fall, I walked home after school to find my parents not at home. They had gone shopping in town while I was in school. Town was 2 hours away, and they had warned me at breakfast that they might be home late, and not to worry, but to go inside and read a book until they returned. They trusted I could take care of myself for a short time. I put up my school things, changed into play clothes, and settled down on the couch with a book. But it wasn't long before I heard the powerful engine of the big station wagon as it hauled up the hill into the driveway. "There's something for you in the back seat," my mother told me. "It's in a cardboard box, but open it carefully. It's fragile." I ran outside and opened the back door of the station wagon. There it was, the box flapped slightly askew. I gently pulled the flaps open and peered in, but at first all I saw was shredded paper. Then something moved. Wide-eyed, I parted the shreds of paper and revealed the gift, a small black and white guinea pig with a peevish expression huddled in the corner of the box. The guinea pig quickly took center stage in my life. My mother helped me build a guinea pig house from a big waxed cardboard chicken box lined with newspaper. My mother and I cut shelters from cookie boxes, sliced carrots, and peeled the skins from grapes for treats. My father never came in from work without a handful of grass plucked from the front yard. Soon his footsteps on the front walkway would elicit squeals of excitement from the guinea pig. Of course, besides the fun to be had, there was a lot of responsibility. I had to change the newspaper in the box every day after school and even on weekends. I had to remember to feed the guinea pig every morning and every evening and give it fresh water. I could never skip these chores, even when I felt sick or tired or upset. My mother explained that when you accept responsibility for something, you can never shirk that duty. That thing, whether it's a plant or a guinea pig, depends on you for its needs, its safety, its very life. I understood that, but sometimes it was difficult to remember or accept how important I had become to another living thing. On bright fall days, I would take the guinea pig outside in the cool of the early evening. I would place it on the grass under the shady little maple tree in the side yard. The guinea pig's entire focus became that fantastic expanse of green, an edible world, incredibly covered with food. My job was to scan the sky for airborne predators, to make sure the guinea pig was not swept away from above. There were hawks in the valley, circling on the rising currents, and crows as well, and even jays might take a small rodent. A coyote or bobcat might turn up too. One day, as I relaxed under the maple with the guinea pig contentedly munching around my legs, I heard the front screen door slam. My mother, who was short and somewhat heavy, came whirling out of the house, huffing and puffing. Her arms waved and her face was red. For a moment, I thought I might be in trouble for something. But that was not it. "Grab the guinea pig and go inside," my mother shouted. "There's a big black bear coming down out of the woods, and it's headed right for the house." Now, I knew quite a bit about bears. After all, I had grown up around them. I knew how to behave and what to do should I come across one in the woods. My mother, however, was not raised around bears. She was raised in Birmingham, Alabama, and Brooklyn, New York. Her parents were actors, and she had belonged to a college drama society and received a degree in English literature from William and Mary. She was a fair sculptural artist, played classical guitar, and could sing a substantial selection of the child ballads. She also stood barely 5 feet 4. Both of us knew that the black bears in the area were not usually dangerous to human beings. They were much more interested in garbage. But we also knew that a small, docile animal obliviously grazing on grass might be too much for a bear to resist. And we knew that bears are quick enough to catch small animals, and that a bear might unkindly move a little girl out of the way in order to get to such a tree. I jumped up and dove for the guinea pig. With an instinct born of survival as a small animal, the guinea pig deftly evaded me as if I was one of the big birds I kept one eye cocked for, and scooted under the nearest azalea. Around and around the azalea I went, arms extended. Around and around the azalea the guinea pig went, tiny legs pumping furiously. If I changed direction, so did the guinea pig. The two of us like some flock of birds, some school of fish, somehow invisibly connected and able to precisely mirror each other's movements. All the time, my mother screamed for me to get in the house, and all the time I screamed that I hadn't caught the guinea pig. After an eternity, it seemed, I laid hands on that pig and swept it up into my arms. At that moment, I noticed how strangely silent things had become. I turned to see my mother standing along the stone walkway near the back of the house. In her hand, she held a tiny piece of broken fence slat. Just then, the bear popped around the corner of the house, and they met face to face, just feet from one another. The bear pulled up short, surprised. They stood there for an agonizing moment. I clutched my guinea pig to my chest. I could not move, nor take my eyes away. Then I saw something astonishing happen. My mother changed. She was no longer a woman at all. She was a bear, an angry mother bear with cubs to protect. She rose up, shook her claws, and roared. Now, there's only one thing a big male bear fears, and that is another bear, a mother bear protecting her young. He backed up slowly, then turned and took off back into the woods. At that very same moment, I turned and ran for the front door. I could hear my mother coming behind me. Inside, with the door slammed and, for good measure, locked, we stood panting, watching the retreating rear of the bear disappear into the gloom of the overgrown pine forest through the big picture window. I turned slowly to my mother. My mother was not a bear after all. She was only a woman, a short, heavy woman with a red face. I carefully put my guinea pig down into its chicken box house. "You chased that bear away with the fence slat," I said shakily. "Well," my mother said casually, "I certainly wasn't going to let it get your guinea pig." And by that I understood that she meant me. Thank you for listening.